Miracle Boy Boxing. I am your host, Jose Cruz. Ladies and gentlemen, I am here to talk about some interesting news that has popped up here on social media, man. Maybe a top trend in boxing in terms of news. And that is this. Dim it down a bit so you can see it. It said I had done heard it all now. Hashtag Erol Spence. This is on Twitter. It's okay though, because all in all, I'm glad it's over and done with. I wish you well, my brother. So, what's going on here is basically Terence Crawford is closing the doors on a potential rematch fight between him and Erol Spence Jr. in what was supposed to happen, in what was supposed to be their next fight. Based on the contract that they signed. They both signed a 2-fight deal. Regardless of how one-sided the fight was, a rematch was next. Errol Spence disappeared from the earth after the shellacking and beatdown he took in their super fight in July, in the summer. Crawford has not fought since. So Spence disappeared, Crawford inactive. Nothing new when it comes to Crawford being inactive. But Spence decided to show all of a sudden his face once again. Sometime maybe a couple weeks ago, he started to show his face again for the first time since July, since the fight. You know, he went AWOL, man. I guess he was, trying to process the loss, enjoy his family, the money, of course. Just live life, man. Give the sport a break. But yeah, man, no social media at all, man. Spence disappeared from the earth, man. This man was nowhere to be found, nowhere to be seen. Until a couple of weeks ago, maybe about a month ago now, Spence decided to show his face for the first time since July of last year. And now he just recently had an eye surgery. A particular eye surgery there that will help him with his vision. Like, I think he had like a blur in his lens. So they removed that, and I don't know, maybe he'll be able to perform better, I guess. Because that was part of the surgery, to remove that blur from his lens in his eyes. But be that as it may, based on what Crawford just said here, I'm done. I'm out of here. I no longer want to fight you, man. Everybody saw what happened in the fight. It was the most highly anticipated fight in boxing since Pacquiao Mayweather, or Mayweather Pacquiao. The hype was real, man. The hype was real, just like Mayweather Pacquiao. And you just had to buy the pay-per-view, and you just had to be there, man. Spence and Crawford was the fight of the year last year in terms of event, not in terms of action, but in terms of event. Action, and now action-wise, man, as big as the fight was and the hype, it was one of the most one-sided fights in the history of boxing. I had Spence to win the fight. I had him going in, but man, what a beatdown the fans of Spence received. It was so one-sided. It's like it was kind of hard to watch, and at the same time, it was surprising, man, of how one-sided and easily Crawford beat Spence. Spence, man. Spence has always been a force to be reckoned with at 147. He was always the bully. Physically strong, concussive puncher, pressure, works the head, works the body. You hit him, he's hitting you back hard, and likes that. And I've seen many of Spence fights. He's hitting you, you hit him, he's with a smile, and he's hitting you back. um, ready to put your lights out, and Spence is a beast, man. And it's like Crawford went in there with him and made him look ordinary. It was just surprising how one-sided the fight was. So now that Spence has just did this eye surgery thing, and Crawford comes out and says, "Man, I've heard it all now. I've seen it all, and I wish you the best in your future, man. I'm done here." So even though these two guys signed a contract for 2 fights, that contract, I don't know. That's interesting, man, because they both signed a contract for 2 fights, and Crawford is like, no, we're done here. I'm not fighting you, man. Basically, he ain't say it like that, but based on what the post said, I done heard it all. It's okay. I'm glad it's over and done with. I wish you well, my brother. It's a hint that he does not want to fight Spence Jr. anymore. And the thing is, as one-sided a beating and fight that was, even though these two guys signed a contract for 2 fights, what's there to see? These two guys went in there, they gave the fans the fight they wanted. Even though it took about 4 years before it got done, before these two guys jump in there, they made it happen. They gave boxing the fight, and the beatdown. It turned out to be a one-sided fight, one of the most one-sided fights I've ever seen in all my time watching boxing. So when you think of a rematch between these two guys, how can Spence adjust to Crawford? How can he make any adjustments? He's not gonna be able to box or outbox Crawford. Spence is more of a pressure fighter, breaking you down bit by bit. Yes, he's a bit technical in there as well. He's got some skills, but he's not as crafty and sharp as Crawford. It's crazy. Spence was trying to do his thing, impose his will on Crawford in the fight. Yes, if you watch the fight carefully, he did land some good shots, but nothing was budging Crawford, man. But it was dropping Spence pretty easily too. Spence didn't see nothing coming, man. And I don't know, man. A fight that's what I was. It was a brain buster for me. Still is, as to scratching my head, wondering how can Spence adjust to Terence Crawford and make the fight not only better but more competitive. Like, what adjustments can he make besides coming forward and going and swinging away like a madman? Because he cannot box with Crawford, so he's gonna have to go in there, balls to the walls. Yeah, make that thing a street fight, man, because he's not gonna be able to box Crawford at all. So, but based on what I'm seeing, man, Terence Crawford is no longer interested in a fight with Errol Spence in a rematch. And a lot of people are saying it. Why a rematch? That first fight made it clear who the better fighter was. No ifs, ands, or buts. No excuses. Terence Crawford is just a better fighter, the better boxer. Better fighter and better boxer. But styles make fights in boxing. Just because Terence Crawford did that to Spence doesn't mean another welterweight can go in there and do the same thing. That's not going to happen. Spence is still that guy, man. He's still going to be coming forward, putting that pressure, strong, and breaking you down, man. Or putting your lights out. He's still a dangerous man at welterweight. Spence is Crawford was just a better man that night. I've said it before on social media that if you put these guys together in the ring, and they fight 100 times, Bud is gonna beat him 100 times because that's just how it is in boxing. You got styles make fights, and sometimes you have a guy that's tailor made for another fighter, and Spence is tailor made for Crawford. You know, they fight 100 times, Bud wins all the time, no matter the outcome. And now that these two guys know each other, a rematch will likely be even worse. So I wouldn't recommend Spence going in for a rematch, even though they signed a contract. I wouldn't recommend it, because it's likely he's going to take another beating, and I don't want to see that. The Spence fan, I don't want to see it. There's a lot of all the welterweights. These two guys can fight, man. Besides fighting each other, you know, you got Crawford, you got Jerron Boots Ennis. You know, that's the best fight right now, welterweight, Ennis versus Crawford. Spence can go up 154, fight Tim Tszyu, fight Virgil Ortiz. That's a great fight stylistically. You got Virgil Ortiz versus Erol Spence, two pressure fighters with power in both hands. Loves to mix it up. Man, you got a fight of the year in your hands. So we'll see, man. Miracle Boy Boxing, I'm your host and Cruz. Terence Crawford has shown no interest in a rematch with Errol Spence. Wish you all the best, my brother. That's what Terence Crawford said. We'll see what happens. Miracle Boxing, I'm your host and crew. Don't forget to like, subscribe to my channel, guys. It's always a pleasure to talk to you guys about boxing right here. I'll see you guys in my next video. Peace.